is it reasonable for this person to actually be able to stay in the profession that they've worked in for the past
Mhm.
20 years? Or do they need to shift and look at opportunities and other occupations that would allow them to be able to make that income that they made or were able to make 10 years ago?
Family disputes can make us feel isolated and vulnerable. Maybe you're going through a divorce or a legal dispute about your kids. Perhaps you've spent hours on Google or have even posted anonymously on Facebook to see what others have to say. But are you getting the actual information and support that you're looking for? Our podcast, Legal Lounge, aims to dispel misinformation and downright bad legal information to empower anyone with questions about their family, their children, their finances, their marriage, and the law. As a team focused exclusively on family law matters, we aim to help listeners not only with the information they need, but also with the hope that their situation has a solution. Short disclaimer, please note this podcast is for educational purposes only, and the information should not be relied upon as legal advice or for legal purposes. Welcome back to Legal Lounge. Today, I am excited to share the mic with a friend of mine, Dr. Sabrina Taylor. She comes to us from a very unique background. So, Doctor, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Sure. So, first, I'm just happy to be here today. Thank you for inviting me on your podcast. In terms of my background, I am a certified rehabilitation counselor. I am a licensed professional counselor in DC, and I am a vocational expert. And also the founders of Benefits Understood Counseling Services located in Columbia, Maryland.
That sounds like an impressive resume.
Thank you. Thank you. My work, it focuses on disability, employment, counseling, and the legal system. So it's an intersection between all of those elements. And I help attorneys, I help employers and persons with disabilities understand vocational issues such as employability and earning capacity.
Those are great terms. And let's kind of delve into the definition of those terms a little bit more for the listener. So when you say employability, what do you mean?
Yes, so in family law cases or workers' comp cases, I am often asked to evaluate whether someone is unemployed or underemployed and what they are realistically able to do in terms of employment, or whether it is feasible for them to prepare for, obtain, and maintain employment.
Hmm. And what types of factors do you take into consideration when you're talking about employability?
Sure. So when I'm talking about employability, I'm looking at how a person prepares for, obtains, and maintains suitable employment, or if they're able to work. And so essentially, I am assessing their education, I'm assessing their medical history. If they have a disability or chronic illness themselves, I am looking at factors of if they have been serving as a caregiver to minor children for the past couple of years. And I'm just looking at a series of factors to see what impacts their ability to actually be able to work.
Hmm. And so when you say work, it could be work that is generally work maybe they did before, or they can do it at a reduced capacity.
Exactly. So again, I'm looking at, their ability to be able to really re-enter the workforce if they're not already in the workforce. I'm reviewing transferable skills. I'm also looking at how long they've been away from the workforce and if their labor market is actually conducive to being able to work based off of their geographic location. So,
Sure.
depending on the question that an attorney presents to me, I may interview the person, I will conduct vocational testing, review certain records, and identify suitable occupations based on that person's education or their work history. or their actual physical abilities. And
Yeah.
then I can develop a reasonable range of potential earning capacity or their ability to be able to enter certain professions.
Sure, sure. So, and you're so knowledgeable about this. So let's bring it, to the average listener. Basically, you're analyzing a whole set of factors to say, hey, you can work in a better job, a higher paying job, or even if you can't work in a specific job anymore. For example, let's say technology effectively outgraded you from a certain position. You can essentially help that person transfer their skills to yet a different job so that they do have an earning capacity, i.e., they can make money.
That's correct. Exactly. Yes. Some of the professions, as you know, are being highly impacted by technology or AI. And so having to review, what those qualifications are in terms of the job description today can be very different than 10 years ago for someone who has been out of the workforce, let's say for a decade.
Yeah, yeah, and I can see that. I mean, a common issue that I see come up is, especially here in Charlotte, is we have individuals, maybe they were in the financial industry but exited for 10 to 20 years, or they were in technology, or they were in healthcare, even like a
Yes,
registered nurse. A registered nurse 20 years ago has a totally different skill set than a registered nurse today.
absolutely.
And so then that obviously impacts the person's ability to get up to speed with any upgrades or additional information they need to know now. Maybe there's more certifications they may need to get, or additional training they may need to receive just to be on par, if you will, if they had continued that job over the past 10, 15, 20 years.
That is correct. And I see that many times with the clients I work with who are needing to upskill. The master's degree is not simply cutting it anymore. They're wanting additional certifications or even additional training in certain technology matters that were not present in their profession 10 or 20 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, personal note here, like my mom was in medical records. And when I say she was in medical records, I'm talking well over 50 years. And the technological advances over 50 years are amazing to even think about. I mean, she remembers back in the day where it was a physical record for every
Yes.
single patient in a file room, all the way up to actual typing things into a system, and doctors and nurses using tablets, which is a crazy thing to think about when you're trying to make sure you assess the employability and ability to earn an income of an individual.
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah. So earning capacity, I know you already kind of referenced some of the things you rely upon. In I'm just thinking out here, like, for example, an attorney, like an attorney who works and operates in Charlotte, North Carolina, probably won't get paid the same if they're working in the middle of nowhere, North Carolina. No offense to rural attorneys, or even different states. So, how do you take into account the different markets that may be available, especially if, say, someone is going through a divorce and they're like, hey, I want to move because I can't even stay in the same city anymore?
Yes, that's a reality. Earning capacity, it really considers what that person may reasonably be capable of earning based on their qualifications, their circumstances, and the labor market. And those numbers are not always the same. You just said it, attorneys in a major city are going to earn significantly more than an attorney maybe in a very rural area. So someone may currently earn very little, but
Mhm.
they possess education, credentials, and experience that can allow them to earn considerably more. And again, it depends on where they're moving or
Mm.
the geographic region that they choose to live in. So another person may have earned a substantial salary 10 years ago, but again, like those changes in technology, even licensing requirements or the labor market can make that income difficult to reproduce.
Mhm.
So that vocational evaluation that I do helps us determine what is realistic now. And sometimes that may require, you know, examining all of the components and then making a decision. Is it reasonable for this person to actually be able to stay in the profession that they've worked in for the past 20 years? Or do they need to shift and look at opportunities and other occupations that would allow them to be able to make that income that they made or were able to make 10 years ago? But again, that may require them to upskill.
Yeah, yeah. It's so interesting you say that because, I advise my clients many a times that, regardless of the family's circumstance, whether you had a one income household or a two income household, when you have parties that are going to be residing in separate households, there is no way to overnight double the income or double the household
Exactly.
ability, right? And so when we're thinking about standard of living, earning capacity, where is the money going to come from? We really have to be realistic of not only where the income has come from in the past, but maybe to your point, maybe someone has to take a job that does pay more, and maybe that's more responsibilities, and maybe that's more training. On the flip side, there may have been a stay-at-home spouse or a parent situation. So again, there may be that shift of, hey, you got to work too, because just to make sure that the children are taken care for and all the household bills are taken care for, we got to get those jobs and we got to get that income.
You're exactly right. And I often see that as well when I am working divorce cases where the other spouse may believe that the person can immediately return to their former career and earn the same salary they previously earned. And oftentimes that's simply not the case, especially if they've been caring for their children for, 5, 10 years. So much changes in
Mhm.
that, different professions over the course of time. So
Mhm.
again, that vocational expert, I often look at whether their skills are still current and whether their credentials need to be renewed or
Mhm.
whether the occupation has changed, and sometimes make those recommendations that, you know, yes, limited income in this field. However, they oftentimes sometimes have those transferable skills that can quickly go into another industry where they can earn more money. But again, there's that upskilling that is required and that research that they have to do on their end, that personal accountability, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's interesting because I was actually just in a mediation on this past Friday, and there was one spouse that was like, I don't want to go back to work, or I like not working as much, and I'm like, yeah, wouldn't we all? But there's just the reality of life, and this is how the planet will continue to rotate, and bills will still need to be paid. So we have to
Yes.
take into consideration.
There's no conversation more romantic than discussing a prenup with your partner, right? Okay, maybe the song for your first dance does a bit more in the romance department. Speaking of emotions, though, the prenup is a very legal document that everyone has a very emotional reaction to. Many people avoid the prenup conversation because they feel it is an indication that the marriage will fail. But here's the truth: half of all marriages already fail, regardless of whether the spouses had the prenup conversation or not. If you or someone you care about is getting married, would knowing what marriage involves legally be important? What about having the difficult conversations surrounding finances, career aspirations, and pursuing parenthood prior to the wedding date? If you are looking to build a solid foundation for your marriage, or you want the same for someone you care about, we are here to help you learn more about prenups from a position of knowledge, not emotion. To learn more about family law from a legal professional, book a consultation with a member of the Modern Legal team by visiting our website, emailing us, or calling us at 704 286 6302. Check out the information about Modern Legal services at modernlegalnc.com.
So let's kind of delve more so into this family law aspect. So if you were, say, retained in a case by a party, and it could be on either side, maybe the one person who has been working for a while and is trying to prove the other side has the ability to earn an income or earn more of an income, or maybe you're hired by the person who has been the stay-at-home parent or spouse. How can you assist those individuals and their attorneys?
Yes. So one thing that I typically do, just so I can have a clear picture of what's presented to me, is I request a resume, employment records, tax returns, any licenses, certifications that the party I'm reviewing has, if there are health conditions that are relevant. And I am, again, looking at the big picture to see what the feasibility is of that person returning to the workforce or even entering the workforce. Because I have had situations where one party has never been in the workforce and
Mhm.
they do not have any skills outside of a high school diploma. And
Mhm.
so I can help both parties and the attorney understand what realistic options are there in terms of earning capacity, how much this person is able to make on the with the skills that they have available to them currently, and what would be needed for them to be able to re-enter the workforce. It also assists with determining, as it relates to the expectations surrounding alimony, what their contribution can be to their family. And so I help put those pieces together. I generally will interview the client. I will interview the opposing party in some instances if I'm allowed, and I will ask a series of questions. And sometimes I do vocational testing to identify what their skills and abilities actually are if the resume is not able to present that picture. And sometimes when you're working with people who do not have a strong work history, the resume really isn't representative of what their capacity is, especially if their job was to be a caregiver. But then looking at caregivers, they manage households, they schedule appointments, they transport family members to different appointments. There are transferable skills within being a caregiver, and many people don't realize that. So I'm able to look at that and present that as well in my analysis.
I love that because I do feel when I have represented the client that say hasn't been in the workforce for a number of years, they feel almost disempowered, right?
Yes.
Because they're like, well, I've been raising kids all these years, or I've been a caretaker for a family member, and it's been a full time job. But to your exact point, like it has been a full time job. You just haven't really been paid. Like, and so let's
Yes.
try to give you a paid job instead. And I can remember one client in particular. She was a stay at home mom for three kids for over, I want to say over 17 years by the time she came to me. And the youngest was about to graduate high school, and she was kind of at a crossroads. She's like, well, what am I going to do? I'm like,
Yeah.
well, what do you want to do, right? Like, what you have a skill set, you've done amazing raising these kids, and I understand a divorce is a very, very hard chapter, a rough situation to navigate through.
Mhm.
But there is another side, and I do remember she did go and get her licensed as a realtor. And I was like, I never would have connected it, but I'm sure you may have seen where a stay-home spouse will be like, I want to go to school to sell houses, and she, I mean, within a year or two after the divorce, she was sending her little postcard to advertise her realtor services, which I thought was fantastic.
Yes, it is. And, I've had many of those moments with clients. I remember I had one client I was working with, and they were a stay-at-home mom, and they were re-entering the workforce, and they had absolutely no idea what they wanted to do. But during their time as a caregiver to their children, they created this very successful blog and had became kind of an influencer on Instagram. And so what they did is they started to get clients to help others promote their content and their business because they had those skills and they were able to build on that and actually took it a little further and uh, got a certification in marketing and content marketing and made a little business for themselves. And so, even those small things that people discount as work, it could be a hobby, those hobbies quickly turn into employment. And those things are considered as well. I look at that if the client has a successful social media page, or they are selling crochet items, all of that is counted for in terms of skills and abilities, because people have successful Etsy accounts, Etsy stores, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's all able to be taken into account in terms of a vocational evaluation.
I love that. And especially if you have individuals that have a lot of responsibilities still, right? Because we do have individuals going through a separation or divorce, and they can't just work a traditional 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 because they have to pick up the kids by 2, 3 o'clock, or vice versa. They're in an industry that maybe their employer is on the West Coast, right? And so they have a totally different set of hours. And so, how are they going to fill in the gaps? So, it's very interesting to see these different options that are available regardless of a person's circumstance, and to help them rebuild to create that better next chapter. I love that.
Yes.
And so, going one step further, of course, you're assisting attorneys, you're assisting clients. What is your role, say, like in the court system, if you were, say, appointed by a judge or brought in to do some type of analysis in a case?
Yes, so considered to be a vocational expert. I am also a certified rehabilitation counselor, and what that means is I hold a CRC credential through the CRCC Commission, and that enables me to professionally conduct vocational evaluations. And that's a big part of what I do as a vocational expert. I'm looking at the case as a whole, and whatever the referring question is, whether it's what is this person's earning capacity, was this person able to work prior to becoming injured? Now, are they able to work after becoming injured? Those are the questions that I'm helping them determine. And in addition to my CRC, I'm a certified work incentives practitioner. So I have an understanding of how people with SSI and SSDI are impacted by re-entering the workforces in terms of their benefits, in terms of their Medicaid and their Medicare. And so that's a different lens that I'm able to offer if one party in the relationship is receiving SSDI benefits, and how that looks as it relates to their case. And that has actually come up before for me in one of the cases I was working with. And so with my credentials, CRC is a very commonly accepted credential in vocational expert work. And also just the lens I have with having a master's and PhD in rehabilitation counseling, I'm able to bring that methodology to the process.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen individuals who, SSI being Social Security insurance and SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance, correct?
That's correct. That is
Just making
correct.
sure. I was like, I
Yes.
use acronyms, but I could tell you are a lot more comfortable with those than I am.
Yes, yes. And I have to remember, not everyone knows these acronyms. And
Yeah.
so I have to remember to spell it out. So thank you for spelling
Of
it
course.
out.
I'm sure judges have said the same thing.
Yes.
Acronyms.
Yes.
But it's true, because even in divorce cases, beyond disability or maybe workers' compensation cases, there is that reality that maybe an individual has been on a disability. Maybe they didn't even apply for benefits yet, and they have the ability to apply, or maybe there's some type of unique situation for an individual to earn some income as well as receive some type of benefits.
Definitely. And it even comes up with particularly divorce cases when one of the children of the couple has a disability and they're receiving SSI or SSDI. And that has come up as well. And so understanding those implications and the care needs for that particular child that they will have over the lifespan.
So tell us a little bit more about how the SSDI and SSI factors come into play when we're in a family law matter.
Of course. So, as it relates to Social Security insurance and Social Security disability insurance, oftentimes there are family members, whether it's the couple, the spouse who may be receiving Social Security disability insurance due to a chronic illness or disability that has been established by Social Security, and they're unable to work. And so that can come up during an alimony case, or if they have a child who has a disability or chronic illness and they're receiving SSI or SSDI benefits, and how that impacts one of the spouse's earning capacity or their ability to be able to work because of care needs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I presume that is also factored into how we look at the financial need of both any children, especially if the children have a disability, as well as the financial need of the caretaker, because we do want to make sure that children and individuals are taken care of first, right? Their financial needs are addressed, and then we can look at additional funds that can go different ways. I know from our side, I know from our side, when it comes to property distributions, we're very much looking at the entire package, because even if, say, today the parties look like they can afford all of the bills, we want to think about tomorrow, a year from now, 5 years from now, especially when we have a child that has a disability. So yes, you may be able to pay the bills in the very nice big house, but maybe we need to sell it so we can all have a slightly better budget, if you will, more affordable budget.
Yes, absolutely.
Vocational expert evaluations are very helpful in our legal cases, because I can see in those cases, especially when one party is attempting to show that the other party has the ability to earn more income or earn an income in general, especially if they were a stay-at-home spouse or parent. And so I, as a family law attorney, can bring that evaluation into evidence and into the court for the judge to review those numbers. And if the person is not actually earning that income yet, we call it imputation, where the judge can actually impute that income in the calculations for both child support and spousal support, so that at the end of the day, there is a financial obligation that it becomes court-ordered based on those numbers included in the vocational expert evaluation. Would you say you agree, Dr. Taylor?
I do. And as it relates to how the vocational expert factors into that, they help the court essentially determine a parent's realistic earning capacity when the child support is disputed. The vocational expert does not calculate the final child support amount or decide whether the income should be imputed, but the expert provides the vocational and labor market evidence. And so the attorneys present the legal arguments and the judge makes the final decision.
Now, when we are thinking of, let's say a listener is thinking about a separation, and they're like, my soon-to-be ex has the ability to earn an income. I just don't know what it is. How would they be able to find you, and how could you connect with them to start with those services for them?
Yes, they can reach out to me via my website at benefitsunderstood.com. Or they can follow me on Instagram at Dr. Taylor is in. So that's Dr. Taylor is in. And they can also give my office a call. We are located in Columbia, Maryland. And that office number is 410-618-3699.
Awesome. And so you said you're on Instagram too. What type of content do you post?
So the content that I post is centered around vocational expert work or counseling. But in terms of contact, I meant to say LinkedIn. I'm sorry if I said Instagram.
Okay.
So LinkedIn,
Okay.
Dr. Taylor is
Okay.
in. Yes.
Okay. I will add, as professionals in our respective fields, I can totally understand. Like you get almost like pigeonholed. Like you get used to your day to day in what you do, and it's sometimes hard to explain to the average listener what you do because it's so focused. But I think this type of information, knowing that these services are out there, are critical for anyone who either is searching for a job, searching to switch careers, or in our context, in a family law dispute, that some numbers need to be run and we need to figure out who can earn what.
Yes, definitely. I agree.
Well, thank you, Dr. Sabrina Taylor. I really appreciate you joining us here on the Legal Lounge. If you ever want to come back and visit, let us know.
Thank you. I appreciate the invitation.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to our discussion. To learn more about me and the Modern Legal team, go to our website, modernlegalnc.com, or check out the links in our show notes to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You can also call us at 704-286-6302. If you have been intrigued by the conversation and would like us to continue our discussions, please subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review. See you next time.